Labor Day. For many Americans, the words conjure images of barbecues on the back porch, crowded highways heading to the beach, school supplies bought in a rush, and the feeling that summer is slipping away. Yet this holiday is not simply about hamburgers or sales racks. It carries with it a weight, a history, and a spirit born out of hardship. Behind the ease of a long weekend rests a story of ordinary men, women, and even children who worked until their hands were raw, who risked their lives daily, and who demanded that their humanity be recognized. The 19th century was an age of enormous transformation. The nation moved from farms and fields into cities crowded with factories. The hum of machines replaced the rhythm of the plough. Railroads slashed across the continent, mines dug deep into the earth, and steel climbed into the sky. With progress came profit, but profit was built on backs bent double with exhaustion. A factory worker's day could last 12 or 14 hours, 6 days a week, sometimes 7. Sundays were often the only respite, and even that was not guaranteed. Children as young as 8 or 9 were sent to the mills, their fingers nimble enough to tie threads or sweep beneath dangerous machines. Women worked long hours for a fraction of a man's wage, returning home to care for households after their shifts. Men coughed black dust from their lungs or returned home maimed from accidents that no one compensated. It was a time when labour was cheap, plentiful, and easily replaced. A worker could complain, but he might find himself dismissed and another desperate soul taking his place before the sun set. Still, the human spirit is stubborn. Across the country, workers began to talk with one another, to dream of shorter hours and safer conditions, to whisper about organising. At first they were small groups, printers, shoemakers, carpenters, each guarding their own craft. But soon they realised that standing together was their only hope. Out of this realisation grew a movement. Unions, federations, collective voices demanding change. The demands were simple by today's standards. An end to endless hours. A chance to see their children before they fell asleep. Wages that allowed survival instead of starvation. The idea that work should not consume an entire life, but be balanced with rest and personal freedom. A slogan began to echo in meetings and marches. 8 hours for work, 8 hours for rest, 8 hours for what we will. That chant, radical at the time, planted the seeds of the world we live in now. Workers were not welcomed when they spoke up. Strikes erupted across industries, and with them came fierce resistance. Employers hired private guards and strikebreakers. Police lined the streets with batons ready. Courts sided with business owners, branding strikers as criminals. Violence broke out more than once, leaving blood on the pavement. Yet the movement did not die. For every strike broken, another emerged. For every worker jailed, more voices rose to demand recognition. In the early 1880s, an idea began to spread. What if there were a holiday dedicated not to presidents or generals, but to labour itself? A day to honour the contribution of workers, to acknowledge the engines of progress that society preferred to overlook. The first celebration came in the streets of New York, where thousands of men and women left their jobs for a single day, unpaid, and marched through the city. They carried banners, they brought brass bands, they brought their children. It was part parade, part protest, and part festival. They were saying, "We are here and we matter." That first celebration may have seemed small, but it sparked something. Other cities copied it. States began to adopt it. The idea had taken hold. The true turning point came a little more than a decade later, when tensions between workers and business reached a breaking point. A company town outside Chicago had been built to showcase a model life for employees, complete with neat houses and manicured lawns. But when hard times struck, wages were slashed while rents in those same company houses stayed high. Families found themselves unable to pay for food after paying for shelter. Anger boiled over. Workers walked out, and their strike grew into a national boycott that halted rail traffic across much of the country. It was one of the largest labour actions in American history. The government responded not with mediation, but with force. Federal troops were sent in. Clashes broke out. Train cars were burned. Soldiers fired into crowds. When the violence ended, dozens of workers were dead, and the nation was shaken. In the wake of this tragedy, political leaders recognized that they had to give something to workers, if only to calm the storm. Within days, legislation was passed making the first Monday of September a holiday dedicated to labour. It was not born out of generosity, but out of necessity. Yet it was a victory nonetheless, a national recognition that labour deserved to be honoured. As the years passed, the meaning of the holiday deepened. Unions grew stronger. The 8-hour workday slowly became the norm. Weekends became enshrined as part of American life. Child labour laws were established, keeping the youngest citizens out of dangerous factories. Safety regulations began to appear, halting the worst of the abuses. None of these changes happened quickly or easily. Each was the result of decades of pressure, strikes, negotiations, and sometimes violence. But step by step, the balance shifted. Labour was no longer a faceless mass to be used and discarded, but a force to be respected. By the mid-20th century, the holiday had become both a celebration and a cultural marker. It was a day of parades, of speeches, of union pride. Over time, it also became a signal of transition, the symbolic end of summer. Families gathered for picnics, cities hosted fireworks, retailers discovered its value as a shopping weekend. Its roots in struggle faded into the background, but they never disappeared entirely. Even today, the holiday carries a double edge. On the one hand, it is leisure, time off, a final swim in the pool, a last ice cream cone in the sun. On the other, it is a reminder of the sacrifices that made leisure possible. Every weekend, every overtime law, every safety requirement exists because workers demanded it, fought for it, and in some cases died for it. The barbecues and the beach trips are possible because someone, long ago, insisted that human beings are worth more than endless hours of work. The story does not end in the past. The struggles of labour continue. Wages are debated. Automation looms. Gig workers argue for protections. Healthcare, childcare, retirement. These remain pressing issues for millions. The pandemic revealed how fragile the system can be and how vital workers are. When everything shut down, those stocking shelves, driving trucks, caring for the sick, and delivering food became known as essential. Suddenly, society recognized once more the truth that the holiday was always meant to honor. Without labor, nothing functions. So what is Labor Day? It is memory. It is gratitude. It is a bridge between the past and the present. It is a reminder that rights we now take for granted were once radical dreams. It is proof that progress comes not from silence but from speaking, not from submission but from solidarity. It is a celebration of resilience, of courage, of humanity carved out in the face of indifference. When the sun sets on that September evening, when the last sparkler fizzles out and the smoke of the grill drifts away, what remains is a legacy of those who worked until their hands were calloused, who marched in parades that were part celebration and part defiance, who faced soldiers' rifles and courtrooms stacked against them, who dreamed of a day when work would not consume life entirely. Their legacy is the long weekend, the 8-hour day, the chance to spend time with family, to rest, to dream, to live beyond the factory floor. Labor Day is not just a pause on the calendar. It is a living testament to the power of ordinary people to demand dignity. It is a story written in sweat, in struggle, in sacrifice, and in triumph. It is the reminder that every meal shared, every laugh around a picnic table, every moment of leisure exists because someone before us believed that work should serve life, not the other way around. And that belief, stubborn and unyielding, is what built the holiday we now celebrate.